Welcome back to the Indy Boys Racing Podcast. We have a very special show for you guys today. My name is Tristan Grider, joined with, as always, my incredible co-host, Justin Cox. Daniel Chaney is not here today because he decided to go on a family vacation to St. Thomas while we stay here in Indiana. But, you know, we decided we were going to go out and get an IndyCar specialist to replace, you know, the man with the long hair. And who better than Indy Monday's host on TikTok? You guys know him as the driver, the number 4 for AJ Foyt Racing. I know him as a guy that just wants to feed the ducks. Dalton Kellett, how are you doing today, man?
Good. Yeah, you guys got a hold of the temp staffing agency and got me to fill in for the day. So
yeah,
hopefully I don't do a horrible job.
It's gonna be a great show, especially when we have a guy that's going to be racing this weekend at Mid Ohio on the show. It's gonna be an incredible show. Jay, how are you doing today, man?
Man, I'm chilling. We got a very special episode, so it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun one. So yeah, how about that? How about you, Tristan? How you doing?
You know, I'm doing good. Had my 21st birthday this weekend, so that was pretty fun. Appreciate the birthday wishes there, Dalton, on Twitter. Yeah, I wanted to show you guys the best gift that I got this weekend. I've been hyping this up. My girlfriend got me a customized beer mug with our logo on it.
That is dope.
Thought this was pretty sick. So don't think I'm ever going to drink out of this because I'm going to cherish it too much. It's probably just going to sit right here next to my desk. But yeah, pretty good weekend. DK, you're up in Toronto right now, I believe, for some media events with Honda. How are you doing today?
Good. Yeah, the race promoter and you know, it's the Honda Indy Toronto, so they asked me to come up, and being the hometown driver, it's you know, an important thing to get the hype out for the event and get everyone ready. And 2 years since we've had the Toronto Indy, I think everyone's really ready to get back to the streets of Toronto. I'm really excited. It's my hometown race. It'll be my first time there in the IndyCar, so it was a busy day. Everything from, you know, the breakfast television type morning shows to on-site kind of photo ops at the facility. The track's about 60% done, so most of the walls are up and all that. And then some more, you know, radio interviews and all that. So just kind of a standard meat and potatoes IndyCar media day. Nothing too crazy, really.
Yeah, I'm so excited for Toronto. I don't know about you, Jay, but I am.
Oh no,
that's like my most like hyped up race for me personally this season.
No, when I seen it was added back to the schedule, I was like, yes. So
they did something right for once. Let's go.
Yes.
All right, but yeah, we got a really special show. Going to talk all about the races this past weekend from Nashville. We had 3 incredible races in the NASCAR Cup Series. Going to talk South Boston and SRX, and yeah, it's just going to be a great show. Let's go ahead and transition to our race reviews. All right, we're going to go ahead and start off with Nashville. Let's go through a couple of the winners this weekend. In the Truck Series, we saw Ryan Preece take it home back-to-back years that he's won in at Nashville in the 17 truck for David Gilliland Racing. In Xfinity Series, Justin Allgaier took it home, so super hyped there for Justin. And in the Cup Series, a very rainy race in Nashville as we had a weather front come across the Midwest, and Chase Elliott took that one home at 2 a.m. So shout out to Chase and all of Hendrick Motorsports. Some pretty good racing so far. Dalton, did you watch any NASCAR this weekend, or did you just catch the highlights?
I didn't catch any of it. I wasn't a good race fan this weekend, to be honest. I think I've spent like 4 or 5. Like I've been home maybe 5 days since in June, so I haven't had too much time. Like all the time I spent at home has been like cutting the grass and just getting the house stuff done, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I saw recently you went to London, if I'm mistaken. Yeah. Was that a good time? You had a beautiful time.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it's a great city. Love it over there. And I actually should have planned better. I should have stayed over the weekend and gone to Goodwood, but it just totally slipped my mind. And I had stuff. I had to be in Toronto for the media days, so I wouldn't have worked out. But would have been cool to have seen that, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, overall pretty solid racing, I thought, so far. Some of the highlights from this weekend in the Cup Series, at least, is that it looked like Toyota was really strong, and two teams that I thought were the strongest from Toyota were not any of the Joe Gibbs racing cars. I thought that both 2311 racing cars, those being Kurt Busch and Bubba Wallace, were extremely strong this weekend. We saw Kurt get a really good finish. Ended up finishing P2. Bubba finished P12. Visibly angry on the radio. If you've heard to any of his radio stuff on Twitter, and it was everywhere.
Yeah.
He was very pissed off. This is not the first time that we've seen this season that the 23 pit crew has kind of screwed Wallace's day. So hopefully they can figure it out. We commented on that a couple times. We love 2311 racing over here on the Indy Boys show. And all we want to do is just see NASCAR drivers succeed, and so hopefully they get that program figured out. Going over,
was it a lug nut thing that happened, or what
Yeah,
happened
so
at
it
the
was
stop?
his I believe it was his left rear that was loose, and they stopped the car, and there was a whole controversy because he like brake checked on pit road, and then I think it was Tyler Reddick almost ran into him, or William, one of the two, I can't remember, but a bunch of people were complaining about that. But no, the left rear like didn't get tightened down, and then they stopped him and made him come back, and then he lost the lap for that. So
That's the worst.
yeah.
It seems like they're having a lot of lug nut issues this year. Like it probably wasn't that crew, but I saw on Twitter I have a GoPro or helmet cam from one of the, like, it looks like it was the outside rear guy. And
I think that was for Eric Jones's team.
Yeah, and like the stops or the little like detents sheared off, and it sparked, and there was fuel, and it like caught the rear left of the car caught on fire or something. Maybe it wasn't from this weekend, but it looked.
No, it was definitely from Sunday. It was crazy. It's actually not the first time this season that Eric Jones has had a problem with that left rear, and Steve Letarte broke it down, I feel like, the best. Also, can we just say how happy I am that NBC is back on NASCAR racing? Because man, it was a rough couple of weeks with Fox, but NBC's back, which means Steve Letarte is back, which means Dale Jr. is back, which means the whole crew is back. And when you have America's second crew chief breaking down how the next gen car works and how the pit stops and the one lug nut works for everything, it felt really nice. And it's cool kind of because NASCAR's trying to become kind of more like F1 and IndyCar with the single lugs, but they need to figure it out, I think, a little bit more.
So what do you guys think it is, though? Like, single lug nuts aren't new, right? Like, and they haven't just been used on lightweight open wheel cars, like big heavy like tin top IMSA cars use them. So it's not a new application. Like, do you think it's just the crews were so dialed on the 5 lug nut deal, and that these single guns are just the crews are getting used to it and making mistakes, or do you think it's something technical with the actual design of it that's not right?
I believe it's some like growing pains, honestly, like coming from 5 lugs to one single one. Because it's like, I'm sure it's hard to find the center point where it's tight, and then you can't go too tight because it'll get stuck, like what happened to Eric Jones this year already. And then if you don't get it tight enough, then the wheel's gonna come off. So like, I'm sure it's just hard to find that center point, and it's mostly just growing pains. So maybe in the next year, like at least next season, we should hopefully be better. But that's my take. I don't know. What do you say, Daniel? Or
my name's
Tristan. Tristan, my fault.
Daniel's gone in St. Thomas this weekend. But from everything that I've heard from crew guys, I listened to Corey LaJoie's show, Stacking Pennies. Shout out to them. Ryan Flores is their pit guy over there, and he talks about he's on Ryan Blaney's number 12, and he'll talk about all the time. He's just like, we went from repetition, and we didn't really get a break. It just immediately went to single lug nuts. Like, they normally get like a break in between, so maybe it's just that they are still trying to learn it and everything. But if you've seen the way the tires go in, it's like the pins and everything that they're trying to fit these tires in they look like they're small on TV, and I haven't seen a cup race yet this year, so I haven't been up close and personal with the next gen yet. But
like the actual drive pegs on the wheelbase too, yeah.
And it looks like it's very difficult to get on the axles, and it's hopefully they can get that figured out. But I mean, what do you think as an as IndyCar's engineer's perspective about that?
I actually had the experience of designing a single lug nut hub when I was in university on my school's Formula SAE car. We went from a 4-bolt pattern to a center lock, and we machined our own. I designed the spindle and the brake hat and that whole part of the wheel package, the bearings and all that. And going through the design process of actually specking out like your thread pitch and the angle of that nut where it mates with the rim, and on the backside with the flange, it was a really interesting process, because what's actually holding that wheel on, those drive pegs are not what's transmitting the torque. Like the torque is actually being transmitted by the friction between the hub and the nut, and the backside of the rim, and then having the opposite threaded nuts on the left and right sides allows the wheels to basically self-tighten with, like, as the load goes around the hub,
it like
as the wheel
self-taps,
spins.
like it self-taps basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like if you were to have the wheel be stationary and the car spinning around it, you could visualize like the force being processing around that rim, and you do the thread pitch so that it tightens it as it goes. So it's not a trivial thing to figure that out, and if there is, it sounds like they really, like, as that it's pretty sensitive to like the torque level and how much they've tightened it. And it might just be a case of like maybe they're having to over torque these nuts to get the actual locking force to keep it from coming off. But if the drive pegs are too small and the crews can't get it on right, and that's causing issues, that's like an ergonomic problem that could be making it more difficult. And I honestly think too, because these teams went from being really specialized with the 5-bolt pattern, with those air guns, and having a lot of expertise with that, and then all of a sudden switching to a single lug nut gun, that could be the issue too, where maybe they just haven't quite figured out the right settings and the right guns and all that to be using. So there's lots of factors.
Yeah, they're just looking at it like
it's crazy how less than like literally we went to Phoenix and like Kyle Larson went and won his championship, and we were still doing 5 lugs, and then literally like less than 3 months later we're running the Daytona 500 with a completely different car. But hopefully they outgrow some of those definite growing pains that are extremely obvious. All right, let's go ahead and go over to SRX. South Boston was this weekend's second SRX race of the season. We had a really interesting race. There were some arguments between Tony Stewart and Ernie Francis Jr. It was like
pretty heated.
It was like a dad and son like fighting, like, grabbing onto his collar. It was like it was very funny, but they shook hands. 10 minutes later, everything was okay. I don't know how much experience you've had getting to talk to Ernie this season, DK, because very new to the IndyCar scene, obviously. Have you got to interact with him at all?
To be totally fair, I haven't. I've spoken to him briefly. I've said hi in pit lane, but no, I don't really know him that well. He seems like a nice kid. I've met Tony before. He was hanging around the Foyt paddock last year at the Indy 500, and Tony's a very nice guy outside of competition, but obviously he's pretty fiery when things start going wrong.
You better watch out when you get smoke riled up. But he ended up being okay as he went and took home the victory. So super cool for last year's champion to get into victory lane today. Overall, Jay, what did you think about SRX this weekend?
I thought it was actually really good. South Boston is probably one of the best short tracks in the nation, in my opinion. So like I personally love South Boston, so I'm kind of biased on this, so I can't. I'm gonna say it's good, so I can't say otherwise. So, but yeah,
and we saw some IndyCar guys actually run pretty well there. Ryan Hunter-Reay did decent there after a disappointing first weekend, I should say. But it was cool to see RHR up there running well with some of the more traditional short track guys like a Ryan Newman or like a Bobby Labonte. So it was pretty cool to see him up there fighting with everyone over there. Have you been checking out
that? I was just gonna say I had a chance to look at a bit of the highlights before this and watch some of it last year. Like the racing seems really exciting in the SRX series, and I'm definitely a short track fan, at least in the open wheel world, and I feel like those tracks really bring out like some really exciting racing when you get a couple grooves going. And the SRX cars look like they race well. Like when I saw the Stewart Francis incident, like it seemed kind of innocuous to me, like for a closed wheel car. It was like, okay, he bumped it, but it's not like at least
it's just short track racing.
Yeah, it's like you're gonna get bumped into. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Tony was heated about something else, but it seemed like maybe a bit of an overreaction.
No, that's Tony, you know. But, is there any chance we ever see you try to get into an SRX car? Are you gonna hit up Ray Evernham?
I'd love to. I mean, I've only met Ray once, but yeah, it would. I would take the opportunity to. I think it would be a really fun series to check out. I've never raced a closed wheel car on an oval, so that would be a fun place to try it out.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah, so you heard it here, Tony. Put DK in the car this season or next. He'll find out time.
This needs to happen.
Car.
Yeah, and we don't normally cover IMSA, but I just wanted to say shout out to Robert Wickens on getting into victory lane this weekend. That is
absolutely
awesome. The storybook is almost complete with him getting back to IndyCar, and very happy as a fan perspective. I shed a tear this weekend when I saw that Robert Wickens took it home. Yeah. But yeah, so those were all the races this weekend. Let's go ahead and transition into motorsport media. All right, so a lot of news going on this weekend. I'm going to start with NASCAR news. Biggest news of the weekend, Martin Truex Jr. has re-signed with JGR. He will be in the 19 next season, probably for his final season in the NASCAR Cup Series. Been racing full-time in Cup since 2005. So one of the last guys, I'd say, from the pre-Car Tomorrow area to be in the Cup Series, those three being Truex, Harvick, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch. So looking forward to a good farewell tour for Truex. Daniel Suarez is likely to re-sign with Trackhouse Racing. Had a great year, so I expect to see that happening. Miguel Paludo is going to be back in the Junior Motorsports 88 this weekend and the Xfinity Series at Road America. Always does well in that car whenever he's there. Team Stange Racing. So this is more of a Canadian NASCAR team that has been trying to get into the Cup Series. I don't know if you know about Team Stange at all, Dalton.
No, I don't.
But they were planning on making their debut this weekend at Road America and doing 12 other races throughout the season. However, they have announced that they will not be making their debut this weekend, and that their first race of the season will be at the Indy Road Course for the IndyCar Xfinity Cup weekend in mid-July, at the end of July. The reasoning for this is that F1 reserve driver Tarso Marquez, who was planning on being in this car, has not been approved by NASCAR, and it's most likely that he's going to need to make some trucks and Xfinity starts.
So maybe for a road course race they have it.
Yeah, I was very surprised about this because
okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So this is kind of what bothers me by this is that, you know, Kimmy's gonna hop into the car at Watkins Glen, and it's Kimi Räikkönen. So like, I get it. He's gonna be in that Trackhouse 91, but you know, Tarso Marquez is an F1 driver too, and just gonna be in much lower equipment. Don't get why the approval process is
hard for him.
Yeah.
But it's easy for Kimi to be into it. I don't know.
Could it be? I mean, if he's a F1 reserve, he'd have to have the license points. So.
Yeah, NASCAR doesn't recognize or doesn't. You don't need super license points to run a NASCAR. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, with stuff like that, though, it's like from the outside, you never know what else could be going on too, right? Like that could be some political thing on the inside that is being disguised as something else. I don't know.
Yeah, it's always kind of shady whenever we see that happen in the Cup Series. Latest I can remember that is that last season when Jennifer Jo Cobb was going to run for Rick Ware Racing at Talladega, and they didn't approve her, even though she's been in the Truck Series since 2009. That was a weird one. But yeah, so Kind of stinks for everyone in that 79 team. Hopefully we see them at the Indy Road Course because I really want to see that car because it's very pretty. So that'll be cool. Dale Jr. has teased once again that Junior Motorsports is going to be racing in the Cup Series next season.
We know it's going to
happen.
He needs
Dale.
to stop
Just
doing that because he needs to stop because it gets me excited. I would love to see Junior Motorsports in the Cup Series. He just needs to say that he's doing it instead of just teasing it.
And then my final.
He's a huge NASCAR fan, and he would go nuts. He's a huge Junior fan. So
yeah.
Oh yeah. It'd be interesting to see who he would put in that car. If I had to think off the top of my head, it would probably be Justin Allgaier, just because he's probably the biggest guy for Junior Motorsports right now. He might put Josh Berry in it. You never know. Or even maybe like a Sam Mayer, but you kind of might want to develop him a little bit more. You never know. And my final piece of silly season news is that Eric Jones is going to likely return to the 43 for Petty GMS, even though he's had all these pit road troubles. Very consistent year so far for Eric Jones. So hopefully we see him resign. SRX news. Only got one little story. This is that Justin Marks is going to be replacing Elio Castroneves this weekend. It's because Elio is going to be racing with Dalton this weekend at Mid Ohio, and didn't realize that we would be racing this weekend. So Justin Marks is going to fill in for him, and that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome. So we'll see him in the 06 this weekend. So yeah, that's all I got over there on the IndyCar, the NASCAR and SRX side of things. Jay, what's going over with F1?
Okay, so let's start out with two light things before we get into the heavy things. So Pierre Gasly ends up re-signing with AlphaTauri for the 2023 season. There's been speculation on where he was going to go, but I know from hearing certain reports about things, he wants to be a head guy, and there's no seats for that head guy at a big team, so it's probably best for him now to stay at AlphaTauri. But I don't know. We'll see how it works out for him in the future. I'd love to see him on a big team, but yeah, I don't know.
Liked by Pierre Gasly right there. That's very liked by Pierre Gasly. Have you seen that meme? DK? That's my favorite. He copyrighted that right there. Like that's honestly
that is liked by Pierre Gasly. So there's a F1 scripted series in the works with Daniel Ricciardo. It's supposed to be on Hulu, and it's kind of been under wraps about things. So it'll be interesting to see what that's about. It's probably going to be like a comedy skit show or something like that. No, Daniel Ricciardo.
I hope it's a cartoon.
Oh,
if it was
yes!
Ricciardo, it's kind of be a cartoon.
That would be amazing.
So
that would
dope.
be
Oh
amazing.
my god.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I would love that. And then the final two things I have kind of go hand in hand, involving Yuri Vips and Nelson Piquet Jr. They both used some very derogatory language. Yuri Vips was on stream with Liam Lawson, and he is actually terminated by Red Bull as their test and reserve driver for what language he used and what he said. Nelson Piquet said something very derogatory towards Lewis Hamilton that was on an interview, and he said it like in Portuguese. There's some kind of confusion there on what he could have meant, but I think everybody kind of knows what he meant. So, But yeah, so those are the two biggest things that I have from over this past week. So that's all I got. So Tristan, if you want to go ahead and go for IndyCar.
Yeah, so I'm going to be excited to kind of hear kind of like an inside scoop from a IndyCar driver about what season rumors kind of go on throughout the year with you. And you can tell me if you've heard a lot about this or heard not a whole lot about this, or if you can't talk about it at all. Coin and HMD are considering expansion for a second HMD car. We've obviously seen a lot of experience from Dale Coin, a lot of success this season from Dale Coin. Obviously, a couple weeks ago, both their cars were in the Fast Six, Sato and Malukas. So that'd be awesome to see another HMD car.
It would be. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
It'd probably be another lights guy. Do you think that would move up maybe a Lundqvist, or like what would you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would make total sense for them. And I think, you know, I have no idea about any of that from an insider perspective, but it would make total sense. I think, given the performance of that team this year, and they were really strong at Indy, and they've been, kind of on, like, they've just been consistently quick and then had some really, really impressive high points. So for HMD to double down with Coin and kind of further their investment, I think would make sense. I've been to Dale's shop, and I know they don't have the biggest facility, so I don't know. Have they run 3 cars full time before? I'm trying to remember if they have or not.
I think I remember a couple years ago they ran 2 cars and a part-time car.
Yeah.
But like that must
I feel
have
like
been
that would be the consideration for them, is like, do we have the shop space to pull this off or not? Or is HMD is part of that, that HMD is getting more involved and they're building out the space a bit. I don't know.
And I wonder if Global would also be part of that. I don't really know all the behind the scenes of HMD. I'm sure I could ask David about it, but like all of like the background stuff, don't really know how included Global is in the coin agreement. Obviously, Global's on the logo, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, some other silly season rumors is that Ben Peterson has been testing for Juncos. There has been a rumor that Juncos is going to be trying to expand to a second car next season, and it looks like possibly that Ben Peterson might be getting that call up. Have you heard anything about that, DK?
I haven't heard anything about the. Excuse me. Sorry. I haven't heard anything about the. Do we have like a burp button? We can like mute that out. I don't know Ben's prospects as far as where he wants to land. I know he's been kind of hanging out with the Foyt crew a little bit. He's been spending some time just with his coach. Works with Kyle as well. So there's a bit of crossover there. But I think he's just kind of trying to get to know all the different teams.
Find any place that he can to test.
Yeah,
a car.
It's tough to break into that world. There's lots of cars, but it's like gridlock, and someone has to kind of leave, or an opportunity has to come up with a new car to make your way in. So it makes total sense to test with different teams. And as a rookie, you get the evaluation days with multiple teams, so it's a good way to get lots of track time.
When you were entering IndyCar, obviously you landed with Foyt. How many other teams did you test with when you were coming in?
I only tested with Foyt, which
Really?
in hindsight, and just because the conversation had started early enough in that lights season in 2019 that it was kind of known pretty not early, but like with enough runway, I was pretty certain that's where I was headed. That it didn't at the time it didn't really make sense to be testing around too much from just a cost standpoint and all that. But looking back at it, the reality is that you are able to kind of double down on test days that you wouldn't normally be allowed to have, because you can use evaluation days. So that's a good way to kind of play the system a little bit to get some extra track time.
Yeah.
So if I do it again, I probably would have tested with a few other teams just to get more track time, and B, try a few different cars out. Yeah.
Just see like what everyone's got. I get that.
And just to see like how different. I mean, and I've been around it enough, and I did test the Andretti cars back in the day, like when I was racing for them in lights. But even just to see, because I drove the old AeroKit car, one of Marco's cars, and then a day in Hunter Ray's car, like 18, I think. But just to see how different teams do things. I mean, it's a useful thing to just see how the engineering office works, and all that kind of gives you more information to use down the line.
Yeah. Speaking of different teams, we have a new team moving up to lights. This was actually announced today. We're filming this on the 28th. Legacy Autosport's going to move up from USF 2000 and Indy Pros and put all of their eggs into Indy Lights next season. No driver announcement, obviously, yet this, but it's probably going to be one of their Indy Pro guys that moves up. But that's pretty cool for a Legacy and for Lewis Michael Meyer and his whole team. Excited to see them in Indy Lights. Next thing, Felix Rosenquist has signed a multi-year deal with McLaren. However, we don't know if he's going to be racing in that 7 car or if he is going to be in Formula E, because McLaren has pretty much put a lot of eggs in. I keep going back to this innuendo. Formula E, a lot of eggs in that basket. Could Rosenquist be the guy for that Formula E team? What do you think is going over there, Dalton?
I mean, I think from Felix's standpoint, he's in a good spot, because it shows that McLaren's kind of committed to him, and that he has opportunities within that organization, so that's good. That's always a good place to be. But there's also probably a bit of a carrot, being dangled from maybe Zach a little bit, saying like, whichever one is his preference, whether Felix wants to be an IndyCar or Formula E, I don't really know, but I'm sure there's a performance thing that's being tacked onto that, right? That he probably has to perform to kind of get the spot that he would want to be in, which is kind of how it goes. So I think, for Felix and with his background, he raced a lot over in Europe and spent most of his career in the, that side of the pond. So he would be an obvious choice for that program, given where those cars raced.
Yeah, and everyone's heard the rumor pretty much at this point. McLaren is most likely going to be expanding to 3 full-time cars next season, with Pato, Alex Rossi, and now a 3rd full-time car. I don't know if you know who it's going to be. Without spoiling, do you know who it is? Without like telling us.
Well, I think it would be Pato, and they've announced Alex's deal, right?
Yeah.
And then so it might be Felix, right? Would be the potential.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But if Felix goes to Formula E, who do you think would be in that 3rd car, like the 6th car, if you will?
Yeah. I don't know. Like I've heard like multiple names, but there's no like.
You've heard the VKs and
and it's like, when you start hearing like more than a couple people for one ride, it's like that's just usually an indication that the somewhere along the line, like the rumor mill has started to spread. Because for this like 3 or 4 guys that are there, it's like, oh, he's potentially going there. It's like, yeah, VK, Scott, Blue, whatever. It's like once you start hearing all kinds of names, just like it's kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah. It was kind of like everyone knew kind of that Rossi was going to McLaren, and it even came to the fact where I thought drivers were joking about. I don't know if you saw that TikTok that Pato posted.
So funny.
So funny. Oh man, that was just a good one. To the point where they were just joking with the fact that like, hey, we all know this is happening. Like, when are you gonna announce it? And obviously, surprisingly, Kyle's announcement came before Rossi's announcement. But yeah, so final big story. We're kind of dance around this one since this is your teammate. Rocket is, or how do I say? Is that
Rocket?
Rocket. Okay.
Rocket. Yeah.
Rocket is behind on their payments. As of today, they have made a payment for this weekend at Mid Ohio, so we will see them on Tati and Kyle's car. We'll kind of like dance around this thing as this is your team. But does this happen often in IndyCar? Like from like sponsorships perspective? Obviously you have K-Line. K-Line is like been your like super like they're your sponsor for like ever at this point now. Do you see this happen quite often with drivers and teams that they like have sponsorships like have trouble or even fall through?
Yeah, I mean, and to kind of backtrack about the, just the specifics of this situation, like I'm not privy to the discussions that are between Larry and, the team and other third-party sponsors like Rocket. So like all of what I know has basically already been kind of publicly put out there. Like, the teams announced that they're running 3 cars this weekend, which I found out kind of when everyone else did. So I don't really have any more input to add, not that I could or would anyway. But like just to talk about the whole thing in general, like for sure the financial sponsorship model of IndyCar is historic. In the last 15, looking back 15 years since the split, we really went to a lot more B2B, and as the sport is growing and becoming more popular, there's more of a business case for business to consumer sponsorships. So that's the kind of state of it right now. And as to answer your question, there's probably more drama as far as the issues with sponsors, across the field than are ever talked about. That like the bit when it's a bigger issue, it might break as a story. But like it's like any business deal, right? There's going to be problems and stuff along the way that just get worked out, and then it just never gets talked about because it never really came to a head. But it certainly happens, and given the economic situation that we're all dealing with right now, and a bit of a recession kind of potentially looming / already starting, and once you start seeing an economic downturn, like that's when usually the first thing to go is the marketing budgets and the corporate entertainment stuff. So what you'll see it more when the economy is like 2008 back around that time, like when you have potentially a big economic downturn, there's going to be more of that stuff popping up for sure.
But that's pretty much all we got for Motorsport Media this weekend. A lot of news. This has been our longest news segment that we've had on this show to date. So much happened this week, and sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad, as we saw with F1. But now let's go into probably the most exciting thing of this weekend is that we're going to Mid Ohio this weekend, and not only is Dalton going to Mid Ohio this weekend, me, Daniel, Jay, and all of Burnout Sports, we are all going to Mid Ohio this weekend. Gonna have a lot of content coming up for you guys. Let's go ahead and transition into talking all about Mid Ohio. All right. So let's just see where this goes. So Dalton, as you would say, give us the A's to Z's of what is going on with what's going on this weekend at Mid Ohio, man.
Well, and I'm in Toronto right now, so it has to be Z's, right? For sure. We did those like the I don't know if you saw this one, but me and Ringer Van der Zand did the not two-seater, but he was in the passenger seat and I was driving the Corvette Z06 around Detroit. And we were both saying Zed the whole time because he's from Europe and I'm from Canada. Yeah. And the Chevy guys were like, it's a Z06. Anyway, so Mid Ohio, great track. It's, to me, I lump that track in the group of places like Laguna Seca, Portland. Laguna Seca, Portland. And then, street courses like Toronto, St. Pete, like shorter tracks, like 60-second to 70-second laps with relatively short straightaways and the kind of flowing corners, like being the total opposite, say, of like Road America, where you have a long straightaway, a corner or two, a long straightaway, a corner or two, straightaway. So it has that really nice flow, and it's a classic track, great venue, lots of fans camping out. The important things at Mid Ohio are, it's a variable track, so and what I mean by that is the grip level, pace of the track varies wildly. Like you could go there for a test 2 months ago, think you're super fast, you're like, we're gonna roll off the truck and be competitive, be sorted, and it'll rain or it'll be the sun will hit the track differently, and everything's out the window. So it always feels like a track that you're chasing the entire weekend. I think my theory is that because they haven't repaved it in like 80 years, that just the pavement is so polished, and they have like it's the worst track in the rain. It's everything's so smooth, and there's so much oil just like seeps into the pavement. Greasy. It's like it gets misty there, and you're like, oh my god, I can barely drive the car. Seriously? And then those black patches that they have get super slippery. So I just think there's something about the surface, whether it's the age or just how it's worn down, that makes it really sensitive. The grip level is really sensitive to like conditions. Yeah. So that's always a challenge there. So it's the teams that are able to like figure that stuff out on the fly are going to have the best setups, but it's also a really driver dependent track. So it's definitely a driver's track, and I think it's tough to pass. The qualifying is going to be really important.
Yeah, I remember talking to AJ Allmendinger about this last year. He won the rain race that was at Mid Ohio in the Xfinity Series last year. And when I asked him, he was just like, I love Mid Ohio so much, but I also hate Mid Ohio so much because you can never predict what's going in. So now that I've heard another driver talk about that, I guess that kind of solidifies it for me that it's going to be an incredible weekend, and not only just for the drivers on the race, but this track, I always see this track packed, and I'm excited to see as a fan perspective, because I've never been to Mid Ohio, neither is Jay, neither is Daniel, and I'm just excited this weekend to be able to experience a new track. And as a fan, Dalton, how does this track rank on your list of like your favorites, I'd say?
Yeah. So are you guys going to be camping out, or are you staying at a hotel?
Actually gonna be staying at my friend's house in Westerville, which is about an hour away from the track.
Okay.
But wish we could.
Because I was gonna say, like, the camping experience there is awesome. Like, my aunt and uncle have a I think they still have it. They have a fifth wheel trailer that they brought down from Canada and stayed. And then when you're there, like, I don't know if you'll have a bike or golf cart or anything, but like, it could go down the back side of the keyhole, so like not the side that you drive in on, but the back side. And there's like this row of where all the campers are, it kind of in the forest down the back straightaway, and it just gets like so rowdy back in there. Like, everyone's just having a good time and partying. That's where my aunt and uncle parked their fifth wheel, and I forget, like, going over there to grab like grill out on the Friday night or whatever. This is like back in Indy Lights or something. Yeah. So it always seems like the fans are having a great time. Nicole and I always love that race because we always bring Poppy. So Poppy will be there if you guys want to come in.
Let's freaking go! I need to meet that dog, man. I've seen way too many incredible and adorable stories. I need to meet that dog, dude. Just text me. I will. Every time I see, Jay knows this, every time I see a dog, I have to pet it. Yes. So yes. I will love all over your dog. This will be. Yeah. This is happening.
Hopefully she's there. Nicole and some of her friends might actually go to a Roe v. Wade abortion protest somewhere.
That's a very acceptable reason to.
I was like, you've got to bring Poppy and get her a little Handmaid's Tale costume.
Oh my god!
I'm dead.
We shouldn't be laughing. It's not funny at all.
Not funny at all. But that's just...
the image of Poppy.
The image of Poppy. Yeah. It's just great. Oh man. Also, I know that we try not to get very political on this show, but I just want to say we really appreciate everything that you have, especially on our show's perspective. We really appreciate everything that you've been saying on social media about what's been going on in the world with lately with Roe v. Wade, and you're never scared to like shy away from these situations, and just want to say that we really thank you for being that part of the community, and that you've gained a lot of supporters and fans through at least from the Indy Boys group, and our people who watch our show. They're just like, wow, this really is a certified Dalton Kellett moment. And and I just want to say that this is we really appreciate all that you do for.
No, thank you. And just honestly, like I said, if anyone's listening and wants to know what I've talked about, you can go on my Twitter and read all my opinions. Hint, I am pro-choice, but when I was younger and in the junior leagues, I really tried to stay away from all that. But just as I got older, you just stop caring what people think about you. And specifically for this issue, I just I'm engaged to an American, and if Nicole and I ever have a daughter one day, I just was like, I have this platform now, and I would regret it if I didn't use it to try to fight for what I believe in. Yeah. So that's why I'm doing it. And, people can agree and disagree. And I think, there's been a lot of vitriol back and forth, but to be fair, a lot of the interaction has been somewhat reasonable, which is refreshing. And that's the big thing here is like, I feel like, if we could take anything from an athlete being like opinionated about something, is that if we can try to have respectful conversations about hard issues, like that's the way forward. It's not, and to be fair, I've clapped back at like some idiots that said like horrible things, and I'll do that still. But like, if someone's going to approach me and say, hey, let's talk about this reasonably, like I will do that, whichever side of the issue you're on. So anyway, that's where I'm at on all that, and thank you for the support, and
No problem. Yeah.
I'll always try to be respectful but still put my opinions out there for what I believe in.
I think my favorite Dalton Kellett clapback of all time was when you were debating on if IndyCar is better than F1, and someone said they were just like, "Damn Americans," and you just said, "But I'm Canadian."
Yeah.
I remember that.
That was just that was a
amazing.
certified Dalton
Yeah.
Kellett moment right there.
Yeah, but anyway, so back to Mid Ohio. The fan experience there is great, and so we got on this as I was talking about Nicole and Poppy. So we'll usually bring Poppy to this track, and there's a huge grassy area, and we'll go and like throw the ball with Poppy and all that, and that's kind of just our little thing that we do every year. And it like we'll go for a golf cart ride around the track, and just there's so many good sight lines that you can get without having like grandstand tickets, and like to me that's a great like a good venue does that. And like some venues you just can't, like if you have a flat track, you need grandstands because you can't see anything, like especially street circuits and like flat road courses. But places like Barber or Mid Ohio or Laguna Seca, where you just have like really good natural sight lines, I think from a fan perspective that's really cool because you kind of get bang for your buck. Like if you go to where turn 4 is and sit in that bowl, you get like 4 corners that you can see, or you can go in the back by turn 9 and see the cars coming up through 7, 8, 9. So I really think fans love it because you get like a lot of value for your sight lines, and you get to see the cars go into some really technical parts of the track. So I've always thought it's a great venue for that. There's some showers and bathrooms that probably need to be updated, but hopefully over time that stuff will get addressed.
Yeah, that's every track though, I feel like.
Yeah, probably.
But I just have a feeling, Jay, I don't know about you, but I have a feeling that we're going to go to this track, and then we're going to go to this track every year for the rest of like.
I mean, I went to Michigan last year for NASCAR, and I'm already planning on going back this year. So, and that was my first time going to Michigan last year. I love Michigan, so yeah.
Yeah, that's speaking of Michigan. Rumor is that IndyCar might be returning to Michigan next season as an oval. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't heard anything. I would say that's just a rumor. I haven't heard anything.
So that is just a rumor. That is just a very we haven't talked about that yet on the show because that is a very low tier rumor. But hey, I'd love to see IndyCar back in Michigan. I think that'd be dope.
But I would be shocked. That would surprise me. But you never know. I mean, every now and then, like a schedule will drop and be like, "What? That was new."
It's like, well, we took a week off. We took a year off from Iowa, and now we have 2. Like that, that kind of stuff.
Which I love Iowa. That's one of my favorite tracks that we're going to. But 2 races there is gonna be so tough.
Back-to-back days, dude. You're gonna be like stumbling. Like it's gonna be the Disney.
I think we're gonna hire like the IV people to come and just be as soon as we get out of the car, rehydrating.
It's gonna be an awesome weekend. Iowa in a couple weeks. But yeah, so Mid Ohio, it's gonna be dope. As Dalton said, the fan perspective is incredible. Ticket prices, guys, are just over $50. If you want to make a road trip out to an incredible racetrack, go to Mid Ohio this weekend. It's gonna be amazing. IndyCar always puts on a good show. If you want to see our main man in the 4-car put on an incredible show, it's gonna be lit. It's gonna be great. No, last thing before we transition, my favorite thing now is spotting all the K-Line hats that I see walking through the garage.
We do that all the time.
Approximately how many of those hats do you think that you've given out to fans? Because like a lot of we see you give out hats to fans on social media. Yeah. Obviously with everything that has happened, we saw you raise thousands of dollars with just people getting your merchandise and stuff. So I think you've definitely, and I'm not gonna lie, I keep mine right here all the time. This is a dope hat. Like in perspective,
it's 2021 one. Yeah,
this one's just cool. Like I like the signature on the bottom. Obviously Jay's is this year, but I mess with it, and
glad you like it.
It's awesome, but I just love seeing.
Actually, I've got some. So for the Toronto race, I have some special edition shirts that are being made. And we've got some. Because I don't know if you guys have seen the white with that design that Racing Line Designs did for me last year. So we've got some new shirts coming. in the next month. So stay tuned for those. As far as the hats, I mean, yeah, I've given away tons at the Indy test. I mean, we were just kind of sitting there twiddling our thumbs, and I saw because I think someone tweeted at me, they were on TikTok, they were like, "Hey, come visit us in turn 2," and I was like,
on the mounds,
"Sure, why not?"
You're like, time to bring everything I have,
and part of it was because when you order this stuff, it's at some point it just makes sense to order. You get a better price if you order more of it, right? And so we just order. You end up having some stuff left over. So I mean, it's just gonna sit here, so we might as well go find some fans. And I always try to find kids, right? Because that's the nice thing to do is give it out to a kid as opposed to a guy that's already got a bunch of merch. But yeah, I mean, I've given away a good amount. I've seen some good sales on my website this year, daltonpellet.com/store. There's a little plug.
Link it.
It'll be linked. Don't worry, it'll be linked.
There. How about this? I will. Okay, I'll go on after this, so it's ready by the time this show drops. If you type Indy Boys in the coupon code, it'll give 20% off or something.
Oh my God! There we go. So you heard it here, guys. If you type Indy Boys into daltonkellett.com/store, you'll get 20% off of your purchase. So that is awesome.
Indy Boys, all lowercase, and is it
all
with
lowercase?
An S or S?
Yeah, with an S.
All right.
All
That's
lowercase.
what we'll do.
There we go. Well, you'll see that on our social media, guys.
That's our first promo
And then
code.
what also happens with the hats is my dad just loves being at the track, and we this has been a huge family thing for us for so long.
Yeah.
And I think he's he with being K-Line, he has a lot of pride for the whole thing, so he just gives out hats too. He'll if and especially when we load the bus into the track and all that, the crew that help, whether it's the guys doing the pump out truck or the guards and all that, my dad's always giving out hats too, so
That's awesome. It's cool to see that. I always point out the teal just because the teal is so
Dude,
popping
yeah.
out. We've talked about that a little bit, that you can see the teal from when you're going around. It's you're
the spotters love it.
There's one. Oh yeah,
I bet
they
they
do.
love it. I bet it's easy to spot.
Yeah.
Talking with your engineer and some of the guys that we've just interacted with just from knowing you, they're always just oh, we love the teal. It's so it's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So that's going on at Mid Ohio this weekend. Let's go ahead and go into our race predictions, where we're going to talk about pretty much who the heck's going to win this thing this weekend.
Okay, so I was already on the prediction screen. I didn't have it on the big screen. I'm sorry.
Of course.
I'm sorry. I messed it up. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's good.
But-
It's good.
That's fine. But so last week, Daniel is the only one who got a point from predictions. And
He's not even here.
exactly. He's not even here, and he's still winning. But
He's not even here, man.
he got his Tony Stewart pick right for SRX. But we got a full weekend of racing this weekend. Do you have Daniel's picks pulled up for this week?
I can pull them up for me really quick, but I guess I could do mine while I'm talking really quick. So, do you want me to start with Cup or with what's going on at Road America this weekend?
Yeah, let's do Cup. Let's do Cup first.
Okay, so Cup Series, we're at Road America. I'm gonna pick two road course guys to take this race home. My first pick is the guy that won this past weekend. I'm gonna pick Chase Elliott just because won last year at Road America. He's really good there. My underdog pick, I'm gonna go Austin Cindric, this year's Daytona 500 winner, son of Tim Cindric. I don't know if you ever interact with Tim Cindric at all, Dalton, but from what I've heard, he seems like a pretty nice guy. But I'm gonna pick Austin this weekend.
Nice. Okay, so I'm going to go with William Byron this weekend. Oh, wait, I typed that in, Daniel. Whoops. I'm going to go with William Byron as my main pick. And then my underdog pick, he's got to get it done this weekend. It's time. It's time for him to get it done. It's got to happen.
Is it Tyler Reddick season?
It's Tyler Reddick season.
All right. Daniel's picks this weekend. He had Denny for his main pick, Denny Hamlin, and his underdog pick, he had Chase Briscoe. So there we go. Dalton, you're more than welcome to do one as your main pick and an underdog sort of pick if you want to.
Whenever. Okay, I'll my main pick, Joey Logano. That's my.
Okay.
People will ask us about this. I think this year someone asked if you could have one NASCAR driver do the 500, like we'll get questions like that all the time. So like Logano's just my default answer,
Yeah.
Just
so I don't have to think about it.
That's funny.
Underdog pick. I think who is. To be fair, I don't follow NASCAR as much as I probably should, but Cody Ware would be my. That'd be a major,
Cody
major underdog moment.
That's a very much so an underdog moment. Obviously, you've raced with them. Very nice guy. He's interacted with our page.
Yeah, it was really when he did Nashville and Road America and all that. I mean, I thought he handled himself well, and it's not easy jumping in one of these cars without a lot of open wheel experience. So I thought, given all that he did a good job. Yeah.
It's facts. And then we always do one pick in the Xfinity series. Me and Daniel both picking the same guy this weekend, Sage Karam, who's going to be in Jordan. I believe he's going to be in Alpha Prime equipment this weekend. But I'm going to pick Sage Karam in the 45.
I don't even know who's racing in Xfinity this weekend. It changes every weekend.
Sage is probably a safe bet. I would have to say if it's a road course.
Do I go with Sage Karam, Dalton?
Are we all picking Sage Karam? Hey, I'm cool.
I think we're all picking Sage. Yeah.
You're going with Sage Karam too, Dalton?
Team IndyCar. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right.
We got it.
And I guess we got to go over to F1 next. So, Jay, where are we going this weekend?
Okay, so this weekend we are in Silverstone for the Great Britain Grand Prix. I guess that's how you say it. It's kind of weird to say.
Great Britain Grand Prix.
Yeah, but so on our show, Dalton, we do podium picks. So like we'll pick the podium. So I'm gonna have Tristan go first.
Listen, he's been on a tear as of recently, and for that reason, I'm not gonna be picking him this weekend. I think he'll be on the podium, but I think he'll be on the podium, but I don't think he wins it this weekend. Do you know who I think wins it this weekend?
I feel like you're going to say one of the Ferrari drivers.
I am going to see one of the Ferrari drivers. I think Charles Leclerc gets back into the P1 spot this weekend. My P2 is going to be Max Verstappen. And then P3, I'm going to go Carlos Sainz. I think he has back-to-back podiums.
Okay. Respectable. Let me know what Daniel's is.
Yeah, Daniel's picking Max for P1. George Russell, he thinks he continues his incredible streak. That man hasn't finished worse than P5 this season.
Yeah.
And picking Checo for third, Sergio Perez.
Okay. So for me, I'm going to go with Max as first. Second, I'm going to go with Charles Leclerc. And then third, I'm going to go with Sergio Perez. So kind of similar to Daniel's. But yeah. So Dalton.
Yeah, I think Max is going to come back and have like something to prove after what happened last year.
Yeah, for sure.
So he's definitely probably the one that wants it the most. I would say he's a safe bet first.
Yeah.
So I would say him, one of the Ferraris, probably Leclerc, and then I think Russell pulls out a good result for them here, and is kind of the British upset for the weekend. So that's my top three.
I think that George Russell is a dark horse championship pick this season, DK.
He's super consistent, so he's got the consistency for it. He's kind of on the willpower program right now.
That's true.
Yeah,
he's like been thereabouts, but not like up and down too much. It's super consistent, and that is the safer way to certainly win a championship. It's not as sexy as winning and crashing all the time, but it's effective.
All right, let's go SRX this weekend. We're at Stafford. It's gonna be an interesting week. Daniel's picking Greg Biffle. I'm actually gonna pick Ryan Hunter-Reay this weekend for SRX. I just have a feeling like he's coming off a good weekend last week. I think RHR is going to get it done. What do you think, Jay?
I'm going with Justin Marks, the man who's stepping in for Elio. Justin Marks is winning this weekend. Dalton, SRX this weekend.
What's the track? Is it another short oval, or is it? I guess they're all kind of short ovals,
I
right?
believe Stafford. Yeah, it's a short oval. It's about, I'd say, maybe just over a quarter of a mile, if I remember right.
Stafford short.
Who are the non IndyCar, like who are the NASCAR like short oval guys doing that?
Newman, you got Bobby Labonte, you got Tony,
Michael
Waltrip,
Greg Biffle.
Greg Biffle, Haley Deegan.
Is Haley racing this weekend?
I don't actually know if Haley's racing this weekend or not. But those are like the main guys: Greg Biffle,
Okay.
Tony, Ryan, those kind of guys.
I'm gonna go with Tony. I think he kind of like the Max thing. I think he's got some fire burning after the last weekend, so he's got a point to prove.
Yeah.
And then our personal races of the weekend. Let's start with lights from Mid Ohio. Daniel's picking Stingray, friend of the show, Stingray Rob. That's a pretty safe pick. However, I'm gonna pick Daniel Frost this weekend. I think that he backs up. He had a great month of May and winning a race in his first career race at Indy. So I think he wins it this weekend in Mid Ohio. I don't know. I just got a feeling. What do you think, Dalton?
My two to pick would be Linus. Is his first name? Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe Peterson comes off of a good IndyCar test and is just flying.
Yeah, man, that'd be cool.
You know?
That'd be cool to see Ben get back.
Could be some confidence there from. I think he had a pretty quick test today, or he gets back in the lights car and is like, "Oh, this thing sucks."
Yeah, that'd be funny.
And Jay, who's your pick this weekend for lights?
I'm gonna go with the other friend of the show from Andretti, Hunter McElroy. I say he's gonna get his first win. So,
hey, he's had a very consistent year, so I wouldn't be surprised. And now the race of the weekend, the one that we will all be at, Mid Ohio. So we do two picks, Dalton. We do not necessarily an underdog pick. We just kind of do our two main picks this weekend. And so for my first pick this weekend, I think he backs up kind of a sort of like underrated season he's been putting together, but he's been super consistent, and that's why I'm picking Will Power this weekend at Mid Ohio. He's just been, as you said, Mr. Consistency. He just gets it done, and he's just, he knows what to do out there. My wild card, or I guess my second pick this weekend, would be Alexander Rossi. He's very good at Mid Ohio, and just see it happening. So yeah, Daniel's picking Colton Herta and Rossi. So those are his two guys. Obviously, Daniel Chaney picked Colton Herta.
All in on the Andretti. Yeah.
Daniel Chaney picked Colton Herta. I never saw that one coming.
Who's this second pick?
Rossi.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so this weekend I'm going to personally go with it's like three guys in my head right now that I want to pick. But I think I'm going to go with Joseph Newgarden.
I had a feeling you were about to say Newgarden.
Yeah.
Comes off back to back.
And then as my second pick or whatever, I'm going with Colton Herta. So, those are my two. Dalton.
All right.
You got to pick yourself, right?
Is there money on this? Because if there's money, I don't think I'm legally.
No.
I'm just kidding. Like an insider betting thing.
You know what? Before you do your picks, Jay, let's put Dalton down as our group pick for the weekend. I feel like that'd be something fun to do. We do a group pick every week, and so kind of like our driver that we would love to see have a great weekend. And if they do break through and win, we all get 5 points to our total at the end.
All right. Well, I will be pushing X just a little bit harder now.
There we go.
I need it. I need it to catch up to Daniel.
I would say, I think Palou is probably. I don't know. I feel like he's been good at Mid Ohio, and I feel like he wants to win there. I think given he's had some good battles with Scott, and he's been on a pretty good year. So he's my first pick. And I would agree with Newgarden as well, being number two. I think there's some momentum there.
Yeah.
And let's just add this one really quick. Who's the highest placing rookie that you have this weekend? Because I'm personally, this might be a little bit of an underrated pick for highest placing rookie this weekend, but I'm gonna go Christian Lundgaard. I think the 30 car is a good weekend at Mid Ohio. What are you thinking, Jay?
Actually, when you said that, my mind immediately went either Kirkwood or Lundgaard, and that's a tough pick because
I feel like you gotta go Kirkwood. We got AJ Foyt's very
That's
own
true.
on the
That's
show.
true.
So I feel like
I'll pick Kirkwood. Since you picked Lundgaard, I'll go Kirkwood. How about that?
there we go. Dalton, what
I guess I have to pick Kyle, right?
Yes.
I feel like him and Malukas are probably both, the choices that I would go with, but I'm going to go with Kyle because,
Yeah, you don't have an awkward moment at the shop, right?
Yeah.
That's funny.
But yeah, guys, it's going to be an incredible weekend of racing. It's going to be awesome. So excited to experience Mid Ohio as a fan. So excited to get to watch our Canadian main man, certified Dalton Kellett moments on the track. It's gonna be incredible. Oh, really quick, I'm gonna ask you about that. So now that since you've been on the show, this is your second time being on. Have you seen the meme kind of like explode a little bit more?
Yeah, a little bit. I've every now and then I'll like say something funny or whatever, and there'll be a quote tweet that's like a total certified.
I love that,
dude.
I love that.
Oh man, we gotta put that on hats. Oh, that'd be so
the
cool.
first one was back at the Indy Robotics or the whatever that thing, the self-driving car thing. Yeah. When with the dog, the robot dog. I to be fair, I didn't know, I wasn't familiar with the show and stuff then.
Yeah.
And I just saw someone I saw you put that picture out, and I was like, is this guy trying to? Is he like trolling me or like? But then I looked at it again. I was like, no, that's fair. Yeah, that's me doing a selfie with a robotic dog. That's a bit of a moment.
He said, no, it's fair.
Oh man, my favorite one that Jay did is that when you were feeding the ducks, I believe this was at Belle. It was either was this at Belle Isle?
I think it was Belle Isle. It was Belle Isle.
Yeah, Belle Isle. Oh my god.
Well,
when
Jay there was a swan.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god. Sorry,
you were just like, yeah, it is. That's so funny. Yeah.
Really, but because they had the driver lot of the buses backed onto sort of that water pond, which was piece of trivia is where they filmed the water scene in Driven.
Yeah.
Because most of that movie, the racing shots were shot at Belle Isle.
Oh.
Or at least like all the pit lane shots and stuff where Stallone's walking down with his race suit and whatever. That's all on Belle Isle. But anyway, so there was a pond right there, and I was just walking around, and there was this huge swan just sitting there, and I was trying to feel the first one I was trying to throw some bread or whatever at it. It just wasn't happening. And swans will mess you up. They're not they're
like a goose or something.
They're 60 pounds a bird, right? They're pretty big. So I was in half sprint stance, tossing it some food and just ready to bolt. All I had visions of was there'd be somebody with a camera watching this unfold, and there'd just be there's gonna be a video of me tomorrow running through the bus lot being chased by a swan, and I'm never gonna live it down. Luckily, it didn't happen.
Dude. Oh man, that would have been the best.
It would have been hilarious, but
that would have been so good. Dalton Kellett's not racing today. IndyCar's substitute driver, Santino Ferrucci, filling in the 4.
Dalton got attacked by a North American emu. So.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
That would be so embarrassing. That would be it'd be 20 years from now, and it'd be you could win the 500, and you'd still be remembered as the guy that got attacked by a swan and couldn't race the next weekend.
Dude, James would never let you hear that down on the broadcast. Him and Townsend, they would just troll you the entire time.
Wouldn't end. Yeah.
Oh man, that's so awesome. But anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for listening to the Indy Boys Racing Podcast. Follow us on all of our social medias at Indy Boys Podcast. Shout out to the main man, Dalton Kellett, for joining us today, being an amazing guest host. We love always hearing your perspectives on engineering, on just like being one of the coolest guys and one of the nicest guys in the IndyCar paddock. We love having you on the show. Is there anything that you want to shout out?
Thanks. I mean, like I said, I'm looking forward to this weekend. We've got some exciting racing coming your way. It's a busy month coming up for IndyCar. My hometown race in Toronto is just a few weeks away. So definitely, if you're coming out to any of those races, come by and say hi. And just, thanks to all the support for from the IndyCar community this year. We've got pretty much had record attendance and great TV numbers at almost every event this year. So I really think we're just on a great upward swing with IndyCar. So thank you all, and to the Indy Boys Racing podcast fan base, thanks for all your support and laughs on Twitter, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be great. Make sure if you guys are gonna be out there at Mid Ohio this weekend, just give us a tweet at Indy Boys Podcast, and we will for sure make our way over to wherever you are. It's a long track, so we might have to rent a go-kart to be able to speed over. But yeah, signing off for Justin Cox, and for the first time, signing off for Dalton Kellett. My name is Tristan Grider. Have a great one, guys. Peace.